How is it almost September already? This year has flown by and it is time for another Pile of Possibilities video. And in today's video, I'm doing something a little bit different. I thought I would take you along with me while I shop my shelves and decide what I might want to read in September. Hello book friends, I'm Jen and welcome back to my reading life and welcome to another Pile of Possibilities video. It's September. Well, it's not when I'm filming this, but it's going to be in about a week. How has that happened? This year, it's felt slow in some ways and incredibly fast in others. But here we are heading into the end of August, and it is time for me to choose what books I might want to read next month. If you're new here, I like to call this a pile of possibilities rather than a TBR, because that just feels very open-ended to me and less like a to-do list. So feel free to use the phrase pile of possibilities if that helps you pick out some books you might want to read next month, but that you're under no obligation to do so if you decide to go in another direction. Now, normally I just sit here and go through all of the books that I have chosen that I might want to read in the coming month, but today I thought I would do something a little bit different. If you saw my last book haul video in which I shared why I chose some of those books to come into my home and become part of my home library, I thought it might also be fun to take you along with me as I peruse my shelves and decide which books I am going to read from among them. I know for me personally, I like to sometimes see the why and the how and not just the what. So that is what we are going to do today. First up, before we head to the bookshelves, I'm going to share with you the 3 books that I am for sure reading in September. So grab yourself a cuppa and we're going to get into those books, and then we're going to go do some home library shopping. It's funny because all 3 of the books that I am for sure going to be reading in September are actually all rereads for me. I think this may be the first time that has happened this year. But first up, of course, has to be Cold Sassy Tree by Olive Ann Burns. I am hosting a read-along of this wonderful Southern novel on my channel in September. I will have a link to the post with all of the details about the read-along linked in the description box below. So it is not too late to still join us and read Cold Sassy Tree. I'm going to have 2 live discussions on my channel, one as we hit the halfway point and one to wrap up the final chapters and the whole book at the end of September. All of that, as I said, is in the announcement post for the read along, and please join my Discord so that you can chat with all of the other Cold Sassy Tree readers in September. That is just an informal way for us to talk about the book, but then we will have more structured discussion in my lives on my channel for both the midpoint and the end of the book. I'm so excited to return to this book. I have not read it since high school. I absolutely adored it the first time I read it, and I have very high hopes. I know a few people have already started reading it or have finished their read of it already and have enjoyed it. So I would love it if you would join us as well for my read-along of Cold Sassy Tree. And then the other 2 books that I will for sure be reading in September are our picks for the Cozy Reader Book Club. Now, Rebecca and I decided for September that we are going to read a duology, and we're going to read both of the books. Both of them are relatively short, and we felt like it was possible for everybody to read them or start them early if you need to and get to them by the time we have our discussion. But those books are Belle Lamington and Fletcher's End by D.E. Stevenson. This is a little duology about Belle Lamington, our main character. And when we first meet her, she is a young woman living in London and she is working. She's got a little bit of a romance with a man who lives in her building. And we just kind of follow along with Belle and what happens to her. And then Fletcher's End is the conclusion of her story. I adored these books when I first read them. I listened to the audiobooks, which I highly recommend. They're wonderful. And I could not put these down, and I just binge listened to them. And now I am so thrilled because Dean Street Press has republished these. They just came out July 1st, and I'm so excited to read them in print format this time. It's going to be so lovely to revisit Belle and to spend more time with her again, and then to discuss her with all of the Cozy Reader Book Club members. You can always join the Cozy Reader Book Club for as many or as few discussions as you would like. The link is always in the description box below. Please join our Substack. That is how we send out the email with the link to the discussion each month. We meet on the third Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific time and 2 p.m. Eastern time, and we'd love to have you join us. In order for me to not spend hours staring at my bookshelves with no idea what I wanted to read in September, and I do this pretty much every month, I kind of think through what kinds of books I want to read, and I do have some loose kind of goals, not goals really, but just a few genres or categories of books or publishers of books that I want to try to have on my pile of possibilities every month. So I wrote myself a little note of the sort of genres, categories of books I am looking for off my shelf on this cute little bookish post-it note. And what I have here is I want to pull a nonfiction book, a middle grade book, a mystery, and then a book either by Persephone Books or by the British Library Women Writers series, and also a spinster novel. If you've been around here for any length of time, you know that I have been participating in Spinster September for the past few years. It is hosted by the lovely Nora at Pear Jelly over on Instagram. I will have her account linked down below if you want to go and check her out. I'm not sure that she is this year doing an official Spinster September read-along. And the way to participate in Spinster September is to read a book with a spinster in it. I really think it's lovely that Nora has put a spotlight on these novels about unmarried women, and, you know, let's not have any kind of stigma about that or about the word spinster. Let us reclaim that word. And I think she's done wonderful things for that in the Bookstagram community. I actually interviewed Nora on my channel a few years ago, and I will link that video as well in the description box if you'd like to check it out. We talked about some wonderful books, and she does give some recommendations for spinster novels. So that's the final category. And then outside of these 5 categories, if there's another book that I think of that I might want to add to the stack, then I will do that. But I think I'm going to try to keep it just to these 5 or maybe 6. That would give me a total of 9 books for my pile of possibilities, which seems like a good number. I tend to read about 10 to 12 books per month, and having 9 on my pile of possibilities allows a little bit of wiggle room for mood reading. So that is my goal. Let us see how I do, but I'm going to take a quick sip of my tea and let us get over to my bookshelves. I'm going to try to go through this list of book genres, topics, what have you, in the order I have them listed here. So let's go out to my nonfiction shelf, which is out here in our loft space. Ignore the mess. But this is the bookshelf that has all of my nonfiction books on it. So the top, this shelf and this shelf are all my unread nonfiction. And I'm kind of thinking that since I want to read a spinster novel, I might, oh my goodness, I can pull it out. I might do The Adventures of Miss Barbara Pym by Paula Byrne. I know this is a chunkster, but I've heard great things about it, and the font in it isn't too small. So that's one possibility. I'm also thinking possibly one of these slightly foxed books that I got recently, which I have my Salinger year, and The Other Day, which is Dorothy Whipple, one of her memoirs. And I think that I might lean towards my Salinger year. So I think it's going to be between these two. So I'm going to pull those out for now and let us grab the other books. Let's see what is next on my list. Next up is Focus, middle grade. So let's head to my middle grade shelf. So this is my middle grade bookcase, which these top 4 shelves are all my middle grade books. The top 2, or actually I think it's about 1.5, are unread, plus all of the books stacked around. And then the rest are my read middle grade. And okay, I think what I'm really, really in the mood for is to read Anne of Windy Poplars, which I think is set in the autumn, and that seems perfect. And Anne is now a principal. So yes, I think this is the middle grade that I definitely want to read. Then the next genre I have is mystery. And I'm kind of tempted to do a little crossover here and pick a middle grade mystery. The second book in the Murder Most Unladylike series, which is Arsenic for Tea. And yes, because it's set at a school, I don't know, September always feels like back to school month, even though my son's been back to school for weeks already. But I'm just kind of in the mood for something set in a school. So I think I might pull this. I'm not sure if I want to pull another mystery as well. I might look at my British Library crime classics and see if any of those are calling to me. But I think for now I'll pull this one. So let us head back into my reading room and we will go through the rest of the list. Next up, I want to pull either a Persephone or a British Library women writer book. I think I'm leaning towards the British Library women writers because I haven't read one of those in a while. So let me get on my chair because I have to stand on my chair in order to get to this very, very top shelf up here. So let me do that and then we'll see what I've got up there. So these are all of my British Library women writers books that I have not read. Which of these? Well, one of my earliest ones that I purchased was A Pin to See the Peep Show, which sounds so fascinating, and it's based on the events of a sensational murder trial in the 1920s. And I bought this because Simon and Rachel from the Tea or Books podcast read this book, and another one that was a fictionalization of this same murder trial, and they compare the two, and this one was both of their favorites, and it sounds really, really good. I don't know. Maybe that one. The other one that's kind of calling to me right now is Tea is So Intoxicating by Mary Essex. Never read a Mary Essex, but this is about the opening of a new tea garden in the village, which causes consternation. And, yeah, I don't know. One of those two, I think. Okay, I'm going to pull them both for right now, and then I will make my final decision. So what is next that I have to pick? Lastly, I need to choose a spinster novel. So actually, one of the ones I am considering is up here. So let me pull that while I'm here. So Miss Mull is one of the ones that I am considering reading as my spinster novel. And let's see, this is about Hannah Mull. She's now a governess, then a companion. She rarely lingers long due to slightly troubled relationship with the truth and a tendency to speak her mind and a fundamental mistrust of others. And then she takes a job at the home of the widowed Reverend Corder and his daughters. She finds a situation in which her unique characteristics are not only appreciated, but essential. So that is one. And then I have one other that I'm thinking about. So let me go over to that shelf. I still have 2 Barbara Pims on my shelf that I have not read yet. So I have A Glass of Blessings. And then I also have, move those out of the way, No Fond Return of Love. And I'm not sure if both of these feature spinsters or not. Dulcie Mainwaring, I think it might be. I'm not sure. Glass of Blessings or No Fond Return of Love. Well, this one is about a married woman. So I think I might pull, that's the case. Then I'm going to pull No Fond Return of Love. Yes, I'm not 100% sure there's a spinster in this one, but I will take a look at it and see if I can figure that out. So I'm going to add it to my stack. And that was all of the categories I had listed. And then I was thinking if there was something else that was calling to me. I have 2 books that are actually carryovers. This is where I keep my pile of possibilities for the current month, and sometimes just random books make their way here. But I do really want to read Our Noble Selves by Kate Atkinson. I received an advanced reader copy of this, and it comes out September 15th, I believe. And so I really want to read this. It is a mystery, so that would also count for my mystery genre. So I'm going to pull that one. And then I still have Finding Margaret Fuller by Alison Pataki, checked out from the library. And I really want to read this before I go to Boston, which I'm going to Boston in October. So yes, I'm going to pull this one as well. Okay, let me sit back down and we will go through these books and figure out exactly which ones are going on my pile of possibilities. Here are all the books that I pulled off of my shelves. So we're going to narrow these down a little bit because, as I said before we went and looked through my shelves, I really would like to keep this pile of possibilities to about 9 or 10 books, just to give me a little wiggle room for mood reading this month. Of course, I may not read any of these. You know how that goes. But it's still fun to pick books and think about what I might want to read. So first up are the 2 nonfiction books that I pulled off my shelf, which is The Adventures of Miss Barbara Pym by Paula Byrne, and then also this slightly foxed edition of My Salinger Year by Joanna, is it Rakoff? Joanna Rakoff? Something like that. And yes, so this one is, of course, a biography of Barbara Pym. And this one is actually a sort of memoir about Joanna working for J.D. Salinger's publisher. And I've actually seen the movie that was made about this book and loved it. It has Sigourney Weaver in it. It's fabulous. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. But I couldn't resist the book, and I still do really want to read this one. But I think I'm leaning towards Barbara Pym. I have had this book on my shelf. Let me see. When did I get this? Did I write in here? Yes. So I've had this book on my shelf for 3 years, and I think maybe it's time to dive into it. And even though it's pretty chunky, the text on the page isn't particularly small, and there are some sections of photographs and different things. I think this is the one. So, Barbara Pym, going to be my nonfiction pick for September's pile of possibilities. Next up is the middle grade book that I chose, and that was Anne of Windy Poplars by L.M. Montgomery, and this is the 4th book in the Anne of Green Gables series. I have never read all the way through Anne of Green Gables. I know, I'm working on it. And I believe this one is set in the autumn, or at least starts in the autumn, and I've heard a lot of people say it's a great time to read this book, so I thought this would get me in a bit of an autumnal mood as, you know, mid to late September is when fall officially starts, even though it'll probably still feel like summer here in California for quite some time. But yes, I really want to read the next Anne book. I think it's been about 2 years since I read Anne of the Island, the book right before this one, and I really loved that entry in the series. I think it was my favorite so far, so we will see what I think of Windy Poplars, but excited to spend more time with Anne in September. And then I did pull this middle grade mystery, Arsenic for Tea, which is book 2 in the A Murder Most Unladylike series by Robin Stevens. And yes, so I also pulled, in terms of mysteries, I also pulled Our Noble Selves by Kate Atkinson. And this is actually just being released in September, on September 15th. And I received an ARC of this from the publisher. So I really do want to get to this. It is a mystery. It's set right after World War II. And I'm very, very excited about it. It sounds so good. And it's basically about this man, what's his name? Harry Flynn. And he gets involved in this festival that they're doing in Britain to sort of like boost morale, I think, about how great Britain is after the war. And then a woman who Harry is last seen with alive is found dead, and he's implicated in the murder, and he has to try to clear his name. So I think that's the basic gist of this mystery. So in terms of these, I think I'm going to prioritize this one. But I'm going to keep this one in the back of my mind, because if I have time, this might be one that I want to pick up. I do love to read books about teachers or set in schools and things like that in September, October, November, as school starts back up. Even though, as I said, it's already started back up a few weeks ago for us here. But yes, so I think I'll keep the Kate Atkinson and then just kind of keep that one in the back of my mind. Then next up, I wanted to pull either a Persephone book or a British Library Women Writers book. And since I have pulled Persephone books for piles of possibilities for the past few months, I thought I would put a British Library Women Writers book on my pile this month. And so I have both A Pin to See the Peep Show by F. Tennyson Jesse and Tea is So Intoxicating by Mary Essex. These are two very different books. But I'm actually thinking, I think I'm going to go for A Pin to See the Peep Show, because I've had this one on my shelf the longest of, I think, all the British Library Women Writers books that I have not read yet that are on my shelf. So when did I get this? I got this, again, I've had this one for over 3 years sitting on my shelf. So I think it's time I at least try to give it a read in September. And I just remember Simon and Rachel, as I said before, talked about loving this one. So I'm very excited to give it a read. And then last, of course, is a spinster novel, and I pulled 2 potentials, and the first is Miss Mole by E.H. Young, and then I also pulled No Fond Return of Love by Barbara Pym. This is a hard one, you guys. I don't know. I honestly want to read both of them. I'm not sure that the main character in this one, I was just kind of flipping through the first few pages, is actually a spinster. But one of her friends, Viola, it does say she describes herself as a spinster or almost a spinster. So she would definitely qualify as that. I'm kind of thinking, because I want to read the Barbara Pym biography, that I should read a Barbara Pym novel. So I think that's going to be what tips the scales here. So, okay, this one's going to go on the pile of possibilities. Keep Miss Mole in the back of my mind, kind of like Arsenic for Tea. Maybe if I have time, try to get to it. We'll see. And then lastly is a book that's sort of a carryover from August, along with the Kate Atkinson mystery, and that is Finding Margaret Fuller by Alison Pataki. And I do really want to read this because I am going to Boston with my mom and my aunt and my cousin in October, and we're planning to go to Concord, to go to Orchard House, and this is about Margaret Fuller, who was sort of part of the sort of Concord group of, you know, literary figures like Ralph Waldo Emerson and the Alcotts, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Thoreau. So I really think this will be a perfect book to read before my trip. Obviously, I don't want to take it on my trip because it is a library book. I might actually see if my library has an audio book of this one. I might listen to it on audio. I don't know. But keeping this one as well on the pile. So let me grab all of the books that I have for this month's pile of possibilities in no particular order. So let's see if I can hold these all up. Let's see. How many do I have in total? I think I did pretty good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Perfect. That's exactly the amount I wanted to have. So I have the 2 D.E. Stevenson books, Belle Lamington and Fletcher's End, of course, Cold Sassy Tree, The Adventures of Miss Barbara Pym by Paula Byrne, Anne of Windy Poplars, No Fond Return of Love, A Pin to See the Peep Show, Our Noble Selves, and Finding Margaret Fuller. This is a pretty good stack of books, I think. I would love to chat with you in the comments. Have you read any of these? Any that I should prioritize of the ones that I'm not for sure reading in September? And what is on your pile of possibilities for September? What are you most excited or most looking forward to reading next month? Let us chat all things September reading down in the comments below. I can't believe I'm saying September reading. It seems so strange that we're heading into the final months of the year. But yes, let us chat all about September reading in the comments. And if you're here but you don't have anything you'd like to add in the comments, but you'd like to let me know that you were here, why don't we leave some school supplies emojis? Because it always feels like back to school in September to me. Growing up, we always started the Wednesday after Labor Day. That's when it feels like school should start, even if that's not the case in a lot of places anymore. So leave me some school supplies, pencils, paper, notebooks, pens, a school bus even. I know that's not a supply, but it's related to school. Whatever you'd like to leave those school supply emojis. I love seeing those and knowing that you are here, and they really do help out my channel, as do likes and hypes if you're on the YouTube mobile app. And if you're new here and you haven't yet done so, I would love it if you would subscribe and stick around for more piles of possibilities, more book recommendations, book vlogs. I'm looking to do more vlogs as we head into the last few months of the year, so stay tuned. I'm going to do my best. And if those things all sound interesting to you, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and join my cozy corner of BookTube. Thank you all so much for being here, for taking time out of your busy lives to spend a few minutes here with me chatting about books. As a reminder, next week I am back to my regular Tuesday and Friday uploading schedule. Make sure you have your notifications turned on so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. As always, I'll be back with another video very soon. And until then, I wish you a good book and a warm cuppa. Bye.